Guys, we finally have it. This movie finally exists. I'm a superhero fanboy, so I am allowed to be excited about this because it's a freaking Justice League movie. People have waited all their lives for this. Even if the movie's bad, just let me have this, please. Justice League, the movie. So Justice League is the 5th movie in the DC Extended Universe, and like I said, this is a motion picture event that fans have been waiting for years. After the events of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice and the death of the Superman, Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince have to recruit a team of metahumans to fight the incoming threat from far beyond. That's a very simple premise, and that's all I really needed for this film because yeah, whether you want to hear it or not, I'm gonna compare this to the Avengers, because that's pretty much what this is. It's DC's version of the Avengers, or the Avengers was Marvel's version of the Justice League. And yeah, I'm kind of freaking out about this because we all know the Justice League, we all know the cartoon. Whether you watched it growing up or not, I didn't, but I still know these characters. We all know these characters. We know Batman, we know Wonder Woman, we know the Flash. We wanted to see these characters on the big screen kick some ass, and we have that. First off, the characters. I'm gonna go over each of the 5 members of the Justice League we have here. Starting off with the veterans, you know, Ben Affleck is Batman. He's still a really good Batman, but I am still kind of hesitant to compare him to Christian Bale because Christian Bale to me was like the cinematic Batman for the big screen. And I really love that version of Batman, like a lot. Ben Affleck's Batman is like, alright, he's Batman. It doesn't mean as much to me, you know? It's just a personal thing with me. Ben Affleck's still a great Batman. He's awesome. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, you know, we all saw her kick ass earlier this year. And I love Wonder Woman in this film because, like, she still has that lasso and she kicks complete ass with it. Her first action scene in this film, the audience was cheering. We were like, yes, Wonder Woman, do your thing. But she's really the heart of the group here. In fact, I dare say that she is the glue that brings this entire group together because she brings the humanity to it. All right, now let's go over the newcomers. I'm gonna start off with Victor Stone, aka Cyborg, played by Ray Fisher. And I'll get the obvious out of the way first. The CG for Cyborg, it is a little CG-ish, I'm not gonna lie. It looks fine, like it's not completely terrible, but I still feel like it could have been touched up just a little bit. It does take some getting used to, but I did get used to it. And his acting is really good too. In the trailers, it didn't really show much emotion from him. He just looked all stoic and brooding. I'm like, we already have Batman. We don't need another Batman. But he does have emotion. He's a really tragic character. I mean, he's a kid who was in an accident and now he has to live with being part machine. They really do play up the tragedy of that. And they do a pretty good job of it. So they give a lot of character to Cyborg in that way. So props to that. And plus, wait till you get a load of some of the awesome things that Cyborg can do. It's pretty cool. Alright, Ezra Miller is Barry Allen, the Flash. I liked him in this movie because yes, he was the comic relief, which is what the Flash is supposed to be if you know him from the cartoon. And yeah, I feel like it's not fair to compare him to the Flash in the cartoon because that's Wally West and they're 2 completely different characters, but they are supposed to be the comic relief. In the movie, Barry Allen's humor is different from Wally West's humor in the cartoon, which is fine because it's a different character, and I like the Flash in this film because he was funny. His humor in this film had me laughing out loud quite a few times because he's the new kid, you know? He's Spider-Man in Civil War. He's freaking out over all this stuff. It did kind of remind me of Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman, where like he just reacted naturally to all this crazy stuff that was happening around him. Like something would be explained to him and he'd be like, well, that's neat. What can I say? His humor worked for me. But the newcomer I was most surprised by was Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry, the Aquaman, which to me is great because when all these characters were first announced, you know, when they were all first cast and the first look pictures were first revealed, the one I liked the least was Aquaman because I was like, that's not Aquaman. That just looks strange to me. But as the trailers were coming out, I was like, alright, you know what? Maybe I can get hip to this Aquaman. And in the end, he's my favorite newcomer because I love this guy. He's a total bro. He's a dude. I don't feel like you get to see the full extent of his powers in this film, which is fine because we have an Aquaman film coming in about a year. But his character really shines in this film because he's the sarcastic dick, the one who's reluctant to join the team at first. When he's talking with Bruce Wayne, the dialogue's just so natural. I'm like, yeah, I could hang out with this guy at a bar. And when he throws down, he throws down. And I've gotten used to his look at this point. Yeah, I mean, he's not the blonde-haired Aquaman, but he's got the green suit. And plus, I guess there was a time in the comics where Aquaman did look like that, so I guess it's not entirely inaccurate. Point is, I actually really like this Aquaman, and I can't wait to see his solo film, which is kind of hinted at in this film. You get to see the DC lore really open up here, which makes sense because this is the Justice League movie, so you get to see each of the characters' perspective world for just a little bit. It's like a tease. We see a little bit of Aquaman's world, a little bit of Barry Allen's world, where each of them are coming from. That's like the first half of this film. Seeing this DC Comics world finally open up on the big screen, I gotta say that allows for some fanboy moments here. When I saw this film for the first time, I was with a bunch of fanboys. We were all cheering in our seats. The audience reaction, it was awesome. We were like, oh my god, that thing from DC Comics! That thing from DC Comics! I've said repeatedly that I don't read the comics. I never grew up reading DC Comics or Marvel Comics, but we know these characters through some form of media. The way I see it, you don't have to have grown up on the comic books to necessarily be a DC Comics fan. To me, my introduction to not just DC, but all superheroes was the movies. Movies introduced me to the world of superheroes and how awesome it is. And this film really reminded me, took me back to that time where I was a starry-eyed kid watching Spider-Man for the first time, or the Avengers, which is great because Joss Whedon did take over in post-production, so some of the dialogue between the crew, you're like, oh yeah, Joss Whedon totally wrote that and made for some great humor. And it made for a really great time. But is the movie perfect? No, it's not perfect. I'll say off the bat right now, Wonder Woman was better. The first half of this film, setting up all the characters, I'll admit the editing was a little choppy. You do get the setup of each of these individual characters, and it's fine, but for the newcomers, Aquaman, Cyborg, The Flash, I feel like it would have been better if they had each had their own individual movies beforehand. Because these are 3 newcomer characters that we know can and will carry their own movies. Because these 3 characters, they're powerhouses, they're huge names, they're larger-than-life characters, and their introductions being in the Justice League film doesn't really mesh well. It's not as smooth as you might hope it'll be. I mean, it's fine because it is a Justice League movie. We gotta get the whole team rolling, but that's the hit this movie takes because these characters did not have their own individual movies beforehand. Doesn't change the fact that when this team does come together and the music's kicking on, you're like, yeah, this is awesome. And the end throwdown, when it's all coming to a head, it is a big Zack Snyder fest with a whole bunch of CG and destruction, which we've all come to expect at this point, so it's a little smoother because we know it's coming. We saw it in the trailer. So you roll with it because it's Zack Snyder. He loves his big CG destructo fests. But again, the Justice League is kicking ass, so you're like, yeah, I love it. And the villain. I don't really know how much I want to talk about the villain because the trailers did not show you a lot of the villain, but the villain's a big bad guy. You know, I heard his voiceover in the trailer. He's like, "This world will fall." You're like, I've seen this villain in a few movies before. The villain is nothing, really, come on. He's Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's not terrible, but he is a villain that you've seen before. But he's really not the point of the movie. He's there to get the whole ball rolling. He's there to bring the team together. And in that, it really worked. And one thing that completely kicked ass, one more moment of fanboyism here, the score, Danny Elfman. Oh yeah! Danny Elfman is no stranger to superhero films. He's done scores for Marvel, DC, you know, Spider-Man, Batman, Avengers, and now he's taken on Justice League. What a time for this film score nerd to be alive. And oh yeah, his scores completely kick ass. And not only are his new themes for the Justice League awesome, but he brings back certain other themes from previous DC films that not in the DC Extended Universe. I'm talking about other DC films. I'm not gonna go beyond that because I'm not gonna spoil it, but it made this fanboy cheer in his seat so loud. It was awesome! Guys, in the end, we have a Justice League movie now. The characters are great, the action is cool, the story is solid, the score is awesome. Although the editing and the pacing in the first half is a little off, and the end is just complete Zack Snyder-ismness, and the villain is exactly what I expected him to be. But I couldn't help but just nerdgasm at all the DC fanboyism moments that are in this film, and I love it for that. So for Justice League, I will say, go see this movie while it's in theaters. I had a lot of fun with this movie, I'm gonna go see it again, and I can't wait to see what the DC Extended Universe has in store for the future, starting with Aquaman next December. So Justice League, the live-action motion picture. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.